love this next question because in the Amplified it says, are you really in earnest about getting well? That word in earnest, I don't know if you guys have used that in your modern day vernacular. It's been a long time somebody asked me, are you in earnest about this? So I had to look it up, and a dictionary is my best friend. And in earnest means this: are you growing in fervor and passion to be well? See, a lot of times we'll pray something one time, and then we don't grow in fervor and passion. We actually decrease in fervor and passion. There is a season in our life where we believe that we wanted everything that God had for us, everything that God wanted to do. We were singing songs like, you can have all of me. Come on, Wander is over. And we're singing it down here with reckless abandon, hands lifted to the sky. And then fast forward a few months from that and you go, God, you can have some of me. God, you can have the Sunday me. God, you can have the 1 hour a week me. And I want to ask you a question. Have you stopped growing in your passion and intensity for God? Was there, oftentimes I found this, that there's a time in our life where we were on fire for God. We were going after the things of God, but life begins to happen and we get discouraged in our faith, and the things that we used to pray for, we no longer pray for anymore. And we've just learned to live in the dysfunction instead of believing God for the freedom. And it's so hard to fight the desires. It's so hard to fight the things. It's so hard to fight culture that we just surrender to it because it's easier that way. And we just find ourselves going through the motion. Oh, it's church again. Oh, this is where one of the pastors take the stage again. Oh, this is the part where they preach the message. Oh, this is the part where people get saved. Am I talking to anybody? I want to ask you, are you growing in earnest about being well? I believe as believers that my hope, my desire is that my heart for God grows in passion and intensity. That I don't have to look backwards for the place that I burn the brightest, but I'm always growing. I'm always going ahead. I'm always, God, do something more in me. Paul writes it like this to Timothy. He says, fan the flame that's on the inside of you. That which was bestowed to you through the laying on of hands hold up, through your grandmother. Woo, females pop it off in the Bible. He says she started the flame, but your job is to fan the flame. I will just say that to you that God started some things in your life, but your job is to fan the flame. And what you're doing in times of worship, what you're doing in times of prayer, what you're doing in moments where you're in the Word is what you're doing is, God, give me a greater level of passion. Give me a greater level of intensity. Let me begin to encounter you like never before. I don't want to get to a place in my life where I'm decreasing. And I will just say that if you're not growing brighter, you're growing dimmer. Anything that's set unto itself will decay. That's why my flower beds look terrible. Because I just want to set it and forget it. I want to do the work on them one time every few years and then just go on autopilot. It doesn't work like that. If you want to have a good flower bed, what do you have to do? Every day cultivate. Every day tend to it. And I want to tell you that every day the enemy's sowing weeds inside your heart, weeds inside your mind. And are you growing in earnest about getting well? Are you getting a greater level of passion, a greater level of intensity? Because I know what it's like to pray for things for so long and it doesn't happen. I want to encourage you, fan the flame. Remember when you used to believe God for freedom. Remember when you used to pray for that loved one. Remember when you used to declare the things of God. Remember when you used to be so excited to come to church. Remember the times. Are you growing in earnest? Or are you just going through the motions? Next question I'd like to ask you is, what excuses are you using? I love Pastor Brian. He said a message, he did a message back, it was probably like January last year, but it impacted me so deeply. And he said, as long as there's an excuse in your mouth, there'll be a cycle in your heart. And excuses are these things. They are lies that we tell ourselves to feel comfortable about where we are. And so we use excuses like, I just had a hard childhood, that's why I'm this way. Let me just tell you, I was abused as a child. But I've lived more years not being abused than being abused. I'm not going to settle in a season of one picture of my life and allow that to define the rest of my life. I'm moving on. And I know some of you have been through hard things, and I'm so sorry for what you've been through. But I want to declare over you, don't allow what the enemy did to you get the final say say. And for me, you know what the greatest revenge is? The greatest revenge is success in spite of pain. It's success. It's still moving forward. Because here's the thing is I will just tell you, my biological dad would love nothing more than for me to surrender this platform, go home, live broke, busted, and disgusted, because that's what he always wanted for my life. He always told me, you're going to live in poverty. You're never going to get out of it. You're going to be messed up just like everybody else. He would love for me to surrender, but you know what the greatest comeback is look at me now. I'm not going to surrender what God said about my life because of what he said. And some of you are letting people that aren't even in your life anymore get the final say of what you're going to be. I want you just to like chest pump, like boom. I want to get some fight back in you. Check your excuses at the door. Yes, it's hard. Guess what? We're not called to an easy life. None of this is easy. Yes, it's hard to have a strong marriage. Yes, it's hard to raise godly kids. Yes, it's hard to do these things. But let me just tell you that Jesus gave too much for me to be loyal to an excuse. I'm going to be more loyal to the cross than I am my excuses. Here's the wild thing, is Jesus shows up and he wants to talk about him. And the man, you know what he does? Talks about everybody else. And Jesus doesn't even go, oh man, that's so hard. I'm so sorry. They left you. Oh, it's okay. No, he just moves on. Here's the thing, is that a lot of us are using all of our prayer time to talk about the problems with everybody else instead of saying, God, change me. God, do something in my heart. God, do something in my life. Wives, if you would stop controlling your husband, maybe God could actually do something in his life. But you got to surrender it and say, God, change me. Change my heart. Change my life. Change my words. Change my mind. I told you I'm coming into your neighborhood, asking you some questions. What excuses are you using? It's just too hard to serve God. You mean to tell me that these people who wrote this Bible, they gave their lives for it? Their bodies were set aflame in Nero's garden. And you're telling me it's too hard to serve God because you might lose a few followers on Instagram? I think Paul's looking at us and going, really? I took the stripes that Jesus got. I took them 4 times. I was shipwrecked. I was stoned. Not the drug kind. Like rocks thrown at you. And you're telling me it's hard because some of your coworkers don't like you? Because somebody rolled into your DMs? Come on, somebody. You are called. And everything that the enemy's been doing all this time is trying to stop the God call, the God purpose on your life.